The separation of powers doctrine asserts that, one, there are three intrinsically distinct government functions. The legislative function, meaning the power to make laws, the executive function, meaning the power to execute or carry out the laws, and the judicial function, which means the power to adjudicate laws, or the power to hear and decide individual disputes that arise under the law. Second, the three distinct functions ought to be exercised by three separate branches of government, which should be constitutionally independent of and equal to the others. And third, the powers vested in each branch should overlap, so that each branch may check and balance the others. This last assertion is the corollary principle of checks and balances. The scheme of checks and balances is indicated by the powers listed in the off-diagonal unshaded cells. An obvious example of a constitutional check is the authority of the president or of the state governor to veto acts of the legislature. It is worth noting that the framers of the U.S. Constitution achieved separation of powers without invoking that verbiage. You will not find the words separation of powers anywhere in the document. How then did they establish a government based on the principle? By simply recognizing in the first sentence of Article 1 legislative authority, and vesting that authority in a Congress of the United States, which shall be composed of a House of Representatives and a Senate, and by recognizing executive authority in the first sentence of Article 2, investing that authority in a President of the United States who shall be Chief Executive, and by recognizing judicial power in the first sentence of Article 3, investing that authority in one Supreme Court and other inferior courts as Congress shall from time to time ordain and establish, the framers of the Constitution managed to achieve a balanced separation of powers. This approach has allowed some flexibility in the practical application of the doctrine at the national level. Congress can, for example, draft legislation in relatively general terms and then delegate rulemaking authority to an executive agency, such as Occupational Safety and Health Administration, the Environmental Protection Agency, Food and Drug Administration, or any other executive agency with rulemaking authority. Under the Texas Constitution, the separation of powers doctrine functions as a more rigid rule. This owes to the specific statement of separation of powers in Article 2 of the Texas Constitution and the resulting theory of non-delegation of authority. Consequently, the Texas legislature is not permitted to delegate quasi-legislative or rulemaking authority to the executive branch. This has been troublesome for governance in the state, given that the state legislature may meet in regular session for only 140 days every 2 years under the provisions of the Texas Constitution.